So again, yet another image content moderator. We have seen text content moderator. Another one is image content moderator. Another obsolete service from the Azure AI. By the time you watch the video, this service might have been changed. But again, conceptually, it makes 100% sense, and we'll be looking at the concept part and not the practical aspect of it. So in this example, we are going to look at image content moderator, very similar to text content moderator. In fact, all the libraries are exactly same. We have seen all these libraries in the previous example, including the endpoint. It is exactly the same endpoint we used, the API endpoint or the service endpoint we have created, including the key for that endpoint. It's all exactly same. Same client we are creating using the endpoint and the key. And this is the object we are going to use to call the REST APIs internally. Now what we have here is a list of images instead of text. This time it is a list of images we are giving here. In this case, we are using the image URLs. So these are publicly accessible image URLs. We'll have a look at these images in the end to see if the moderation is correct. Now what we're going to do with the image list, we are iterating through each image URL. These are basically string, nothing but URL strings, and we are printing it right here. And then we are going to look for adult and racy content. So any explicit content is there in the image. That's what we are checking here. And this is the function which does that magic. So far I have tested this is pretty accurate. Almost all the evaluation is right on spot. Pretty stable API from all the tests I have done so far. And the name of the API is image moderation evaluate URL input. So this is the API we are going to use. There are ways in which we can give the local image and things like that. I'll show you the documentation of the SDK when we look at the documentation of this particular function. But for the time being, we are giving URL, and there are other data representations. At the end of the day, what this API or function does is it takes an image binary data and look into the image just like a human look into it and tell it has any explicit content. That's the purpose of this particular API. And these are the arguments we are passing to the image. Mainly what matters is this particular image URL. Everything else is pretty much standard and boilerplate. And that is the first evaluation we are doing. Next, what we are going to do is we are going to extract any text inside the image. For example, it has any printed text inside the image. This text, we can pass it through the text content moderator once it is available. So there are other services to convert image to text. This is one of them. Pretty accurate again. I've seen it is doing most of the text conversion correctly. Even this API is working for certain CAPTCHAs. So it is pretty powerful. It's just like a human being. It's even working for CAPTCHAs. I have tested this function with some difficult CAPTCHAs and it's giving the correct CAPTCHA result. So basically the idea is gives the text inside the image. And then what we are doing is we are trying to find out faces. We are checking if there is a human face inside the image. And if that is the case, we are printing the coordinates of the face within the image. The whole thing, the three functions we are calling, is within this for loop. So we have three images. If you want, you can remove this and just execute it in one shot. It's up to us how we do it. In this example, there's a list of images and we are going one by one. You don't need a for loop or anything like that. You can just do one by one if you want. But in this case, there are three different images, which gives kind of three different results. Now I'm going to run the code and I'm going to put a breakpoint here so that we can see which image we are accessing. Code is available if you want. What I'm going to do is start debugging. So what I recommend, if you're using virtual environment or something like that, just use the previous virtual environment if you're using a different virtual environment for all different small examples in this training, it'll take a lot of space and kind of not something I recommend. But if you're writing this code for production purposes, make sure that you use virtual environments. If you don't know what is a virtual environment, nothing to worry about. Just follow what I'm doing. So I have done all the pip install globally. That's why I don't have any issues. We have seen all those pip install in the previous text content moderator lesson. So we have got the breakpoint, and the image which I'm assessing is this particular image, https:/content.api new/blah blah blah. So we'll have a look at the image in the end. For the time being, let's see what the API has to say about it. So there is a small print in the end, so you can have a look at it if you want, but for the time being I'm going to press F10, step over. So the API is being called and evaluation is available. So let's have a look at the evaluation. If you want, you can put it in the watch. Let me remove that and put this into the watch, add to watch. So we're going to look at what the API has given us. So there are two variables of interest here. If you want, you can look at other things, but what we are going to do is we are going to look at what is being given by the API. Is image adult classified? False. So it is not a classified adult image. But is image racy classified? True. Looks like it is a racy classified. So that's a interesting thing. Normally most of the adult classified false is not really racy, but in this case this is false and this is true. You can give another image, much more explicit image, so that you will get both of this thing true, but this specific image we are getting this false and this is true. The image is racy, but it's not adult. And racy classification score is 0.72, which is pretty high. It is pretty sure that the image is indeed a racy image, and the result is true, and so on and so forth. And the adult classification score is 0.007, which is very low. The probability of being this particular image is an adult image is very low. So which means that AI is pretty sure that it's not really an adult image. Interesting. So the first image is a racy but not adult. Now let's see the rest of the evaluation of the same image. So it is the same image we are targeting, first image in our list. So we are trying to extract any kind of text from that image. So we are yet to see the image, and the text, if you want, you can put this into the watch. The text is influencer something realistic image of Joe Biden. So it's looks like there is a text inside that image. So we are printing out here so that we can read a little easier. So this is the text, some influencer, then this, then realistic image of Joe Biden, and at grow. We'll have a look at the image and we'll see all this text inside it. But for the time being, it is pretty accurately printing the text inside the image. And this is supposed to print the face inside the content. And again, this is the coordinates of the face we are going to get from this. So count equal to 1, which means that there is one face, exactly one face inside the image, and rest what we need is the coordinate of that particular result. And these are the coordinates. So faces, and then it's an array, and then these are the coordinates. So instead of looking at the documentation, I recommend use the debugger to understand what is inside the object which is getting returned. You can look at the documentation, but it's way easier if you have a debugger and look at the structure of the object, which I always do, because a lot of this kind of objects, the documentation is very sparse. So it's always better to look at the debugger. For example, it has a count, face, a result, cache ID, etc., etc. Anything starts with underscore, it's private, don't look into it. Anything starts with underscore, everything without an underscore here, you can have a look. This is true with anything, not just AI or anything. It's just common with any programming language, including Python. Most of them underscore is internal, C++, C#, everywhere. In this case, these are the objects within this return evaluation, and face is We have one face and these are the coordinates. Now that is the first image. We have 2 more images to go. Let's have a quick look. This is the second image, and the second image, the evaluation is false. Both adult and racy is false, which means that this is a pretty normal image. It doesn't have any racy content. This is a very useful model or useful service from any cloud provider for the matter. In this case, we are looking at Azure, but this is a very useful service or feature for evaluating the content, especially image. It's very difficult task otherwise. And this is a model which kind of really works. Again, looking for text, just like we did before. I don't know if this image has any text. Looks like it has text. Minecraft HyperX edition, some kind of weird text it is having. So we'll look at the image. Like I said, text we printed. Finally, we are looking for faces. So count is 0. There is no faces, so the array is empty. This particular face array is empty, so result is false. So there is no face in that image, at least as per the AI. So again, we are going with the last image. If you are executing this example by yourself, feel free to try other images. I have tried so many images, it's pretty accurate. They changes this model in the backend all the time, so probably for the same images you may get different result. That is expected. In fact, if I execute this code even now, the AI can give me slightly different result, especially the probability. So we have evaluated the last content. Again, both of these things are false. The classification score, this can be different in different execution, this particular accuracy of this number, but first 2 digits should be good to go. Again, we are going for the text inside the image, and we have some text inside that image. Next, we are going for faces, and I have already pressed F5. Let's see if there is faces. There is a face inside that, so this is the coordinate of the face. So one of the things we can do is we can look at the images. So the first image, it was telling us a racy. So let's have a look at the image. So we are going to see a racy image. If you want to close your eyes, feel free to close your eyes, because we are going to look at a racy image. So this is the image which we analyzed. As you can see, it's a fake image generated by AI of Joe Biden, and this is the text it was extracting. Pretty accurate. As you can see, this was mostly what we got from the text part, and it also said that there is a face, which is a face like this. So this is a racy image, but it is, as you can see, it's not really an adult content, it's just like fun. Now let's have a look at the next image we've been looking at. So this is the next image. So one of the things you need to make sure that if you're giving different images is that image is publicly accessible. So this is the second image, Minecraft HyperX edition. I don't know what this image is. It's some kind of random image we used just to have no face, but some text and things like that. Let's have a look at the next image. So this is the last image. So this is a normal picture of a man, which has coming from iStock, credit to this particular author. And this is the text which it got printed. And as you can see, it has printed that particular text right here. And there's a number also. That number is coming in the bottom of that image right here. I don't know if you can see it. Even I couldn't see it, but it has found out that particular number, 15505402447. And that's the text it found out. This image to text itself is a very useful feature. And the turnaround time of this API is pretty fast. Image to text, very useful feature, and it works pretty good. It works for CAPTCHA as well. Face detection on image. We'll see some other models does the same thing, but for the time being, this is pretty useful stuff. And of course, this classification part, it's again another useful production quality code or API. So that's about image content moderator or image content moderation. Like I said, these things can change, but new things will come up, which does a superset of what we have seen if something comes up, and it always does. So we have seen an image content moderator, and we call the API and see it working. Now let's get into the next topic.